Deep in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, something lurks. Something massive. Something that has left footprints measuring 20 inches long in the mud. Something that terrorized gold prospectors through the night, bombarding their cabin with boulders until dawn. And here's the most unsettling part. Nobody has ever been able to prove with certainty what it was. Today, we're diving into one of the greatest cryptozoological mysteries of all time. Buckle up, because this story will take you from the misty forests of California to scientific laboratories, through Hollywood backlots, and into video games. Long before European settlers set foot on the North American continent, indigenous peoples were already talking about it. Tribes of the Pacific Northwest knew these creatures well. For the Salish people of British Columbia, it was the Sasquatch, a hairy giant of the forests. This word would eventually become the origin of the term Sasquatch as we know it today. But this wasn't just some monster story to scare children. No. For many Native American nations, these beings were part of the forest's reality, just like bears or wolves. The Ojibwe of the northern plains spoke of the Rougarou, a creature that appeared in times of danger. Other nations described them as warning messengers, beings that told humans to change their ways. Ethnographer George Gibbs was one of the first to document these legends in 1865, collecting testimonies from local indigenous peoples who spoke of Tsiatko, hairy wild men living in the woods. These accounts didn't describe bloodthirsty monsters, but rather shy, intelligent creatures that preferred to avoid human contact. In 1811, British explorer David Thompson allegedly discovered strange footprints in the snow, massive prints, impossible to attribute to any known animal. But it was really at the beginning of the 20th century that settler testimonies began to accumulate. In 1904, in the Sixes River region on the Oregon coast, settlers reported seeing a hairy wild man prowling the coastal mountains. Similar accounts followed in subsequent decades, from miners and hunters who ventured into remote areas. But the incident that really exploded the legend occurred in July 1924 on Mount St. Helens. And trust me, this is where the story gets truly terrifying. Picture the scene. 5 gold prospectors, Fred Beck, Gabe Lefevre, John Peterson, Marion Smith, and his son Roy, camping in a small cabin they built with their own hands. They're miles from any civilization, searching for gold in the wild mountains of Mount St. Helens. For weeks, they've been finding strange footprints near streams and springs, enormous prints, some measuring close to 20 inches long, but they're just tracks after all. Until that fateful day, the prospectors come face to face with 4 massive creatures moving through the forest with an upright, almost human gait. They describe them as standing over 7 feet tall, covered in long black hair, with pointed ears about 4 inches long and 4 short, stubby toes. Each creature would weigh around 400 pounds. Panicked, Fred Beck pulls out his rifle and fires at one of the creatures. Hit 3 times, the animal topples off a cliff into an inaccessible canyon. Big mistake. That night, as the men try to sleep, all hell breaks loose. The cabin starts being bombarded with massive stones. From all sides, the impacts echo against the wooden walls like thunder. The men hear enormous bodies crashing against the structure, shaking the foundations. Piercing howls tear through the night. At one point, a gigantic hand reaches through a hole in the wall and tries to grab an axe. The siege lasts all night long. Only at dawn do the attacks finally cease and the creatures disappear into the forest shadows. Trembling and exhausted, the 5 men gather their belongings and flee the mountain. They tell their story to authorities. The story makes headlines. The Forest Service sends rangers to investigate. Rangers J.H. Huffman and William Welch descend into the supposedly inaccessible canyon but find nothing. They examine the giant footprints around the cabin and demonstrate how easy it would be to fake them. Their conclusion? The miners probably placed the large stones around the cabin themselves to support their story. But here's the thing. The rangers may have debunked the story, but people wanted to believe. The incident was reported in every Oregon newspaper. The canyon was renamed Ape Canyon, a name it still bears today. And this story inspired decades of testimonies and theories. Fred Beck himself wrote a book in 1967, more than 40 years after the event, maintaining his version until the end. If you love these kinds of mysterious stories and want to discover more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We explore the greatest mysteries of our world, and you don't want to miss a thing. But the term Bigfoot itself, the one that would become world famous, wasn't born until much later. In 1958, in Humboldt County, California, forestry workers discovered an enormous footprints at a road construction site near Bluff Creek. A journalist from the Humboldt Times, Andrew Genzoli, received a letter from a reader describing these mysterious tracks. Genzoli thought it would make a fun Sunday morning story and wrote a lighthearted article, jokingly mentioning that perhaps we have a relative of the Himalayan abominable snowman. To his great surprise, readers loved it. He and his colleague Betty Allen published follow-up articles. The loggers nicknamed the creature Bigfoot because of its gigantic footprints. And just like that, a legend was born. The name stuck immediately. Bigfoot became a local sensation, then national. Men's adventure magazines and cheap paperback novels seized on the subject. In these stories, Bigfoot was portrayed as a primitive and dangerous creature from the past, lurking in modern wilderness. What we learned later was that the 1958 footprints were a hoax, orchestrated by a man named Ray Wallace. His children revealed this after his death in 2002, but by that point, the damage was done. Bigfoot was firmly anchored in the continent's popular culture. Washington State now counts over 2,000 recorded testimonies. California, Florida, Ohio, Illinois, and Oregon are also among the states with the most sightings. And then came October 1967. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, two former rodeo cowboys and amateur boxers, set out on an expedition into the Six Rivers National Forest in Northern California. Patterson had been fascinated by Bigfoot since the late 1950s. He'd even started filming a pseudo-documentary on the subject. He chose this area precisely because of the numerous reports of giant footprints since 1958. On October 20th, they were riding along Bluff Creek when their horses suddenly panicked. Patterson dismounted, grabbed his 16mm camera from his saddlebag, and started filming. And what he filmed would become one of the most debated pieces of evidence in cryptozoology history. For 59 seconds, the camera captures a massive, hairy creature walking along a dry creek bed. The creature moves with a fluid, rolling gait, its long arms swinging naturally. At one point, it turns and looks directly at Patterson and Gimlin before disappearing into the dense forest. The witnesses estimated its height between 7 and 8 feet. Details seem to indicate it's female, notably what appear to be pendulous breasts. The creature left behind footprints measuring 14.5 inches long. This film, now known as the Patterson-Gimlin film, became the second most watched amateur film in history, right after the Zapruder film of JFK's assassination, and the debate has raged for nearly 60 years. Supporters of authenticity point to several troubling elements. First, the creature's gait. Biomechanics experts have analyzed the way it walks. Its fluid, rolling motion, with a stride length impossible for a human of that size, doesn't match any known human walking pattern. The shoulder width exceeds normal human proportions. Then, there are the anatomical details. If you look closely at the enhanced images, you can see what appears to be muscles contracting under the skin. There's even what seems to be a sagittal crest on the skull, similar to that of a male gorilla. Anthropologists, like Jeff Meldrum from the University of Idaho, have spent decades studying this film. Meldrum argues that the proportions, movement, and anatomical details would be extremely difficult to reproduce with a 1967 costume. Bill Munns, a special effects expert and creature costume creator, analyzed the film in depth in his book When Roger Met Patty. His conclusions lean toward authenticity, arguing that creating such a costume with 1967 technology would have been nearly impossible. But skeptics have their arguments too. Philip Morris, a gorilla costume creator for fairs, claims to have sold a costume to Patterson shortly before the film was shot. Bob Hieronymus, a local man, even claimed to have been the man in the suit. He says Patterson promised him $1,000 to wear the costume, money he never received. Hieronymus took a lie detector test to support his claims. Some witnesses say they saw him in possession of the costume at the time. The context is also suspicious. Patterson was in debt and rented a camera, telling his friends he was going into the wilderness to find irrefutable proof of Bigfoot's existence, and he returns almost immediately with exactly that. The timing is, to say the least, convenient. Moreover, the image is just blurry enough and the creature just far enough away that we can never be totally certain. Patterson died of cancer in 1972, maintaining until the end that the creature was real. Gimlin avoided talking publicly about the subject for decades, granting only 3 interviews from the 1970s until around 2005. 2005. Since then, he started giving interviews again and appearing at Bigfoot conferences. He categorically denies participating in a hoax. The film therefore remains one of the most controversial and fascinating pieces of evidence in the world of cryptozoology. Let's now talk about the scientific arguments for and against Bigfoot's existence. On the supporters' side, the most popular hypothesis is that of Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus blacki was a giant ape that lived in Southeast Asia about 1 million years ago. First discovered in 1935 when a paleontologist found a giant molar in a Hong Kong pharmacy, this animal was absolutely massive. It could reach 10 feet tall standing upright and weigh up to 1,300 pounds. It was the largest primate that ever existed. Anthropologist Grover Krantz proposed that a surviving population of Gigantopithecus could have crossed the Bering Strait to colonize North America. Jeffrey Bourne supported that this was plausible, since Gigantopithecus fossils have been found in China, whose forests are similar to those of the Pacific Northwest. Many species migrated from one continent to another via the Bering Strait throughout history. Krantz even analyzed the Gigantopithecus jaw and noted that it widens toward the back, which could accommodate a trachea when the skull is placed directly atop the spine, as in humans, suggesting a bipedal posture. But here are the major problems with this theory. First, all Gigantopithecus fossils have been found in Asia. No trace of this animal has ever been discovered in North America. None. Not a single bone, not a single tooth. Second, Gigantopithecus went extinct about 300,000 years ago, probably due to climate changes that transformed its forests into savannas. Its specialized diet, consisting mainly of bamboo and fibrous plants, couldn't have adapted to North American environments. Third, the majority of anthropologists believe Gigantopithecus was quadrupedal, not bipedal. Its massive weight would have made bipedalism extremely difficult, if not impossible. In 2019, scientists analyzed ancient proteins in the tooth enamel of a 1.9 million-year-old Gigantopithecus. They discovered that Gigantopithecus's closest living relative was the orangutan, and that their lineage separated about 12 to 10 million years ago. This confirms that Gigantopithecus was a great ape, not a hominid close to humans. The arguments against Bigfoot's existence are also solid. The main one is simple. Where are the bodies? For a viable population of 400 to 900-pound creatures to survive year after year, there would need to be enough individuals to reproduce. That would mean hundreds, even thousands of individuals scattered across the continent. And yet, no corpse has ever been found. No bones, no teeth, no specimen dead on a road, no skeleton in a cave. Grover Krantz himself, though a supporter of Bigfoot's existence, listened to at least 10 audio recordings allegedly of Bigfoot and found no compelling reason to believe they were authentic. He also examined samples of hair, feces, skin scrapings, and blood attributed to Bigfoot. His finding? Either these samples received no serious scientific study, or the documentation of these studies is lost or impossible to obtain. In 2005, residents of Teslin in the Yukon claimed to have seen a Sasquatch and recovered tufts of hair from bushes. DNA analysis by Dr. David Coltman of the University of Alberta revealed they were bison hairs. In 2012, a team led by Dr. Melba Ketchum published a press release claiming to have confirmed the existence of a new hybrid hominid species based on analysis of hair allegedly from Bigfoot. This study was quickly discredited. It was published in a journal created 9 days before publication, of which this was the only issue. The genetic work was deemed unconvincing by the scientific community. Psychology also plays a crucial role. Our brains are incredibly good at finding explanations for events they can't immediately interpret. This is called the predictive brain. If you expect to see Bigfoot, if you're thinking about it, if you're in a dark forest and you glimpse a large silhouette, your brain can easily fill in the blanks. Black bears, for example, can occasionally walk on their hind legs and resemble a humanoid creature from a distance. Studies have shown strong links between supernatural beliefs and conspiratorial thinking. When the Animal Planet series Finding Bigfoot aired from 2011 to 2018, there was a huge increase in Bigfoot sightings. Similarly, the The most popular years of the X-Files series saw a 200% increase in UFO sightings. Media directly influences what we think we see. But regardless of its actual existence, Bigfoot has become an absolutely massive cultural phenomenon. In the 1970s, pseudo-documentaries investigated its existence, and films portrayed it as a sexual predator. Then, in the 1980s, Bigfoot showed its softer side. It became associated with environmentalism and as a symbol of wilderness to be preserved. The 1987 film Harry and the Hendersons was a major turning point. Starring John Lithgow, the film depicts Bigfoot as a friendly, misunderstood creature in need of protection. This film spawned a television series that lasted 72 episodes from 1991 to 1993. In cinema, Bigfoot has been the subject of over 150 films and documentary series. The Legend of Boggy Creek in 1972, a documentary film about the Fouke monster, a Bigfoot-type creature in Arkansas, became a cult exploitation cinema classic. Bigfoot and Wild Boy was a segment of the second season of the Croft Super Show before becoming its own series. Horror films like Abominable in 2006 presented Bigfoot as a bloodthirsty killer. Willow Creek in 2013, directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, uses the found footage format to tell the story of a couple camping in the woods to capture evidence of Bigfoot. More recently, Netflix released Bigfoot Family in 2020, a family animated film where Bigfoot has become famous and must be saved by his teenage son. Bigfoot also regularly appears in popular television series. The Simpsons did an episode where Homer is mistaken for a Bigfoot. Futurama showed Fry trying to photograph the creature. Castle devoted an entire episode to an investigation involving Bigfoot. The reality TV show Finding Bigfoot aired for 7 seasons and captivated millions of viewers. The $6 Million Man featured Bigfoot as a recurring antagonist in multiple episodes, cementing the creature in 1970s pop culture. In literature, Bigfoot appears in numerous genres. Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter wrote The Long Earth, where humanoid creatures resembling Bigfoot play an important role. Proof, a comic book series published by Image Comics from 2007 to 2011, features John Prufrock, a Bigfoot who works for a secret agency hunting other cryptozoological creatures. David Rains Wallace used Bigfoot in The Klamath Knot in 1984 to discuss relict species and mythic themes. Robert Michael Pyle, in Where Bigfoot Walks in 1995, writes about his personal search for evidence of Bigfoot in the Columbia River Gorge Mountains. In video games, Bigfoot also makes appearances. In Splatoon 3, Bigfoot was one of 3 cryptid Splatfest options in April 2023. The character appears in various hunting and adventure games. Even advertising has seized upon Bigfoot. Jack Link's, a beef jerky brand, has used Bigfoot as a mascot for years with its Messin' with Sasquatch commercial series, where hikers play pranks on Bigfoot, who usually reacts by chasing them. Skamania County in Washington state even passed a law in 1969 declaring that any willful killing of such creatures would be considered a crime. County Commissioner Conrad Lundy insisted it wasn't an April Fool's joke despite the date. The ordinance was amended in 1984 to exclude any insanity defense and to consider such a killing as homicide if the creature was proven humanoid by a coroner. The town of Willow Creek in California holds an annual parade in honor of Bigfoot. Oregon is home to the world's only Sasquatch trap, located in the Siskiyou National Forest, as well as the Bigfoot Trail, a hiking trail that crosses the Klamath-Siskiyou Mountains, an area known for its high concentration of sightings. The North American Bigfoot Center in Oregon attracts visitors from around the world. Bigfoot has become much more than just a legend. It's an industry, a symbol, a cultural icon that represents our fascination with the unknown and our desire to believe that mysteries still remain to be discovered in our modern world. So, does Bigfoot really exist? Honestly, solid scientific evidence is lacking. No body, no bones, no verified biological specimen. The idea that a 600-pound mammal could survive in North America without being reliably detected or monitored defies logic. The fact that sightings increase dramatically when television shows about Bigfoot are popular strongly suggests confirmation bias and media influence. But here's what's fascinating. The Bigfoot story touches something deep within us. It speaks to our relationship with wilderness, our desire for mystery in an increasingly mapped and explained world. Bigfoot represents the possibility that we haven't discovered everything yet, that wild and unexplored corners still exist. Maybe that's why the legend persists persists so long and with such strength. Whether you're a fervent believer analyzing every blurry image with hope, or a rigorous skeptic demanding concrete evidence, Bigfoot reminds us that the world is still capable of surprising us. The Patterson-Gimlin film continues to be debated almost 60 years after its creation. The Ape Canyon incident remains one of the most dramatic stories of encounters with the supernatural. Thousands of people continue to search in the forests, equipped with thermal cameras and audio recorders. Respected scientists devote their careers to studying this possibility. And Bigfoot continues to appear in our films, books, games, and collective imagination. So the next time you walk through a dense forest, when you hear a strange noise in the bushes, when you glimpse a massive shadow between the trees, ask yourself, is it just a bear? Or is it perhaps, just perhaps, the mystery that has continued to elude us for centuries? So, this is for Bigfoot, but you can imagine we can think about another legendary creature, the Yeti, often referred to as the abominable snowman. If you want to learn more about him and discover the latest scientific discoveries regarding its existence, you may want to watch this video where I explain everything concerning the Yeti, its legend, explanations, and stories.